It's been 100 and some years since the burn, and it feels like that long since we've been watching Burn Ham Trek. Welcome to our Star Trek Season 3, Episode 3 review and discussion. How's everybody doing out there?
Where am I?
That's what I was feeling like the whole entire episode. I'm Tom Connors, and with us is Andre the Boss Man. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you. I'm very glad to share my pain with all of you. So that's like the beauty. When we have to suffer, at least we don't have to suffer alone. So there's that.
And also with us is the voice of Midnight's Edge, Rob Shlomo. That's the moaning you hear.
More moaning. I need a drink. Or is it too early to start drinking?
No, he's not watching porno. He just, the show made him sick. And also with us, speaking of being sick, we got a doctor in the house. The one, the only script doctor. He's got a cure for all your entertainment needs.
Yeah, this one's going to take some more research, though, because holy crap, is STD really flaring up now.
And I believe that Mr. H is also scheduled to join us as well, correct, Andre?
Yeah, he should join us as soon as he is able. So
I'm surprised he didn't disown us.
Well, he has some more feelings to share, so we shall see.
So, as I pointed out, we've kind of got an idea of when the burn happened. We got a little bit more info on that. We got Lurch Jr. in a mask. The Discovery is a target because it's got all kinds of dilithium. Everything. The answer to everything is mushrooms. And I loved that they made a crack about it 2 times in the episode, but they kind of neglected the fact that their science is just as stupid in this entire episode. But before we get ahead of ourselves, Andre, did you want to take us through the synopsis real quick? Or did you...
Okay, synopsis, since I've been doing that so far. Okay, let's see what the hell happened in this episode again.
I watched.
Here's a question before we should get
okay,
that.
I remember. Yeah, I remember what happened now. I just had to stop and think, what the hell was I watching? Yeah, okay. Well, basically, it's an election year, and it's very, very important for them to emphasize that the orange man is bad because he's very bad in orange, and isolationism is very, very bad, and the UK is very, very bad for ditching Europe. For that reason, the Earth must also be very, very bad for no longer being in Starfleet, because that all disappeared 300 years ago when all the dilithium in the galaxy exploded out of the blue.
I thought it was only 100.
And took most of a
maybe
long
they
time.
Said 300
anyway.
and 100. I have no idea.
I think
They built a digital wall around their planet.
Maybe it was 300. Yeah, now that you say that.
I think it was 700 years after the events of Star Trek Discovery, and since that's 970 years before Burnham appeared, that would be 230, 70 something.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
Years.
They said 3 different things. It seemed like to me, but I was having a hard time keeping.
They just the story changes every week. I mean, it's just.
But anyway, just to get up with the synopsis, so basically they've returned to Earth, and Earth is very, very bad and ruled by Trump right now. That's kind of the thing. So that they are shocked to find that don't you trust us when we come here in a secret Federation ship that was never listed and lost 1,000 years ago anyway, and here we just show up and you question us for who we are? What the hell is wrong with you people? Why are you so suspicious? Why, is your leader very orange and very bad? That's much what they were saying. Because before this, then Saru has been made permanent captain by Michael Burnham because she's so awesome.
She allowed it.
Yeah, she allowed him to be captain, whereas she has learned to be a little bit more emotional and less wooden. So it's going to take some time for her to get back into her wooden ways. So everyone has to wait for that. But anyway, so then they deal with the Earth, who are now protectionist, and that's really horrible. And you have people from Titan that looks like these horrible alien invaders that people from Earth like to shoot down from space because they want their dilithium or something. And they never tried talking, or they tried talking once and that didn't work. And then the Titans resolved to piracy. And then it turned out that they're just poor refugees. And if they were just
They were
willing to
Earthlings
talk,
all along. Yeah,
Yeah,
they just would
if
have
they-
talked it out.
if they
Oh
just
my
wanted to have, if they could just have a conversation, if they could just like listen to the scientists, then it would all be fine. And in the end, then Michael Burnham again single-handedly saves the day and the galaxy, and Saru learns that, oh, well, we just have to trust whatever she's doing because she's awesome, and we just have to learn to accept the fact that she'll always be there to bail us out, and the rest of us are just NPCs in her story.
Yeah, and she said,
then-
of course, she allowed herself to be first.
Yeah, and then they still go around talking about Starfleet as if it's like this thing that's around there still, even though it obviously disappeared hundreds of years ago and it's gone and it's not coming back. Again, it's like people today starting to like look for emissaries of the Roman Empire all of a sudden. That's like the parallel that I like to use.
Oh, and don't forget, the
and-
burn only affected ships that were in warp for some reason.
Yeah, brilliant.
Oh, and the lithium dried up before the burn, so they were actually running out of it at the time.
Jesus. Anyway, this synopsis is going to be ranting. Oh yeah, and then of course there's like another whiz kid, binary whiz kid who's super smart and super genius because she's trans. So obviously, and she
No, this
she
is the
clicks
non-binary
super
one.
well.
Yeah,
the non-binary.
No, this is the different one.
You know who else was a super genius? Wile E. Coyote. Take a look at his track record, okay?
No, if Wile E. Coyote was such a genius, he'd just go to an Outback. No, but Andre, I understand where your rambling comes in, because here we are again after last week's episode, which, again, not great, but at least it was an episode. It had a storyline. It had, it made sense. This just felt like a bunch of bullshit to just look at how much we need Michael Burnham. We got to trust Michael Burnham. And even when, Saru should have been like, that whole scene between them where he's like,
it was,
trust goes both ways and we have to assume trust, blah, 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 blah. Bitch, just tell him what your plan is.
Don't pull a holdo maneuver here.
As I said, I don't even know. Like, I had to struggle to remember what the hell really happened here. What was the story about?
It was all a contrivance to show how great Michael Burnham is, once again.
Oh, here's a question for you. When you watch this episode, which one do you think hasn't seen the other for over a year? And which one do you think hasn't only seen Burnham for like maybe a day? Like, the crew act as if they haven't seen Burnham in ages, but it's from their perspective, it's been like 12, 24 hours or something like that. And they're all hugging and cheering and talking about, like, I was imagining you baking a cake or something. It's like, Tilly, you saw her yesterday. Literally. From your perspective, you saw her yesterday. Why are you acting this way?
Well, but the other thing, too, is they all greet her with open arms. They're all, oh, Michael. Not one of them says, bitch, you took me 900 years into the fucking future. What the
Well,
hell?
not only that, they got a
go.
scene where
That's
she's
fine.
sitting there contemplating, like, leaving them behind. Did you remember that when she's talking to not Idris Elba, and he's like, you don't owe them anything. It's like, kind of you do.
Yeah, you brought them here and you didn't have to. None of you had to be here.
To be
Actually,
fair, though,
There's
guys,
no-
let's be fair. They did that to themselves. No one asked them to, but they were just like, Michael Burnham is so freaking awesome that we're all gonna just leave everything behind just to follow her.
Yeah, but there's
They did that themselves.
But it's unthinkable that there wouldn't be some guy down in engineering or in maintenance or whatever, or in stellar cartography saying, what the fuck did I do to my life? I didn't ask to be it. I didn't ask you. Like, somebody made that decision for them.
That's the thing, is I have a hard time believing that most of these people would have went along with this.
No. There was
clearly someone was just in the background. They weren't brought into the mission briefing. Next thing you know, they're crashing on an alien planet like 1,000 years in the future, and they walk up to this room like, hey, what's up? It's like, who are you? You're not supposed to be here. It's like, you're right.
Did anybody see what was one of the last episodes of Battlestar Galactica where Adama says, I can't order you to do this in good conscience, so I'm going to ask for volunteers. Anyone volunteering to go on this mission, please step to the left of the yellow line. Anyone volunteering to not go on it, please step to the right of the yellow line. Like, no moment like that. No. Now everybody just went along because everybody just implicitly trusts Mikey Spock. There you go.
That was the season 2 finale. Yeah, that was it pretty much. She tells them you have to go, and they're like, "No, we're staying." It's like, no, you don't have to. We know the ship has autopilot. You reminded us in a couple of episodes prior and after.
Right? No. And again, like Rob said, and I said just a minute ago, that's the main issue again with this episode. We're back to this whole thing where every single event, everything that happens, every storyline leads to Michael Burnham. And it's all because of her, and it's all her choices, and she allows it. Like she was everything, and everything was her in this episode. And it was
the end all be all.
Yes, because she's the bestest ever. And coming in, we have Mr. H as Andre is resetting his router. How you doing, Mr. H?
What's up, H?
I still hate you guys, so we're getting somewhere. All right.
Oh gosh, this thing is getting back.
Oh, we got people. Peter Smith in the comments. The burn when the galaxy took a hard left. Self-deprecated. That's what I was saying last week.
Does anyone find? Did anybody start screaming when she did that personal log? About 150 years before we arrived, all the dilithium exploded.
Oh, so are we reviewing it now?
Yeah. And then she says, all efforts to find an alternate technology.
We just began.
Alternate technology.
What
the fuck are you talking about? The Romulans had alternate warp technology.
I came with notes, ladies and gents.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
Guys,
He's
before
got
we continue with the review and picking this apart, to those that haven't seen, of course, most of you should have seen by now. If you haven't, go do that right away. Last week we had Mr. H react to the first 2 episodes of season 3 of Star Trek Discovery, back to back, double serving, without ever seeing it before, and the look on his face was pretty priceless. So to say that you were shell shocked, I think that's kind of like understatement.
I think that's century. I think that's being too fair.
Absolutely. So I'm really curious. Now you've had a week to digest it all. What do you think of those 2 episodes after the fact, and what did you think of this one? And then we're going to go through it all as we go through your notes. Then we're going to discuss our thoughts on it and explain what it all means in context. Because I'm sure you're going to have some questions not having seen the past 2 seasons. So let's just begin. Tell us and share your feelings on the first 2 episodes after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, it's still terrible.
Before that, I have to address one super chat that says Nightwish Fan 1991 for $5. Leave Mr. H alone. He is innocent. Oh, well, we broke that innocence last week, didn't we? He doesn't deserve this torture. Well, neither do we. Neither does anyone. But if we have to, then why shouldn't he?
Oh dear.
We had some people who genuinely thought you were mad at us. I'm like, well, if he is, he probably has good reason. We put that poor man through hell. We tortured this poor soul. So, God, I do apologize, Mr. H. I do from the bottom of my heart. I don't know why Andre decided to drag you into this. I think I was against it from the start. I said this is probably some kind of abuse.
Many people said that in the comments. Like, people are like threatening the UN and Human Rights Council and everything like that. There's no end to all the international bodies that wanted to go after me for this. So,
oh dear.
No, honestly, the motivation is simply I thought it would be good for a laugh.
So I still think it's got like I stand by everything I've said. Like I genuinely can't wrap my head around the fact that they are not self-aware enough to write out the whole, the galaxy took a left and the burn happened and all of that business. I am still absolutely shell-shocked with that.
Don't even go there, Frederica. Don't even go there. No, you do not want to poke the dragon. Trust me.
Hey, how you doing, Alex?
And I do think ultimately as well is that like it is definitely a case of them. Like they've had to ruin the universe to bring optimism into it, and I can't get around that. Like,
I you know, actually, I saw a comment that I thought was really, really cool. In the comments for the video segment that we cut out and released, someone said that at the time of writing this, they probably thought that Bernie was going to be the candidate, and that right now we would all have like the marketing pitch of "Feel the Burn."
Maybe.
I thought that was a good observation. But anyway, be that as it may, your feelings. I want to hear how you've digested this over the course of the last week, and I will break down this episode and what you felt about every little bit of it, and we'll discuss your points as you bring them up.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I still think it's, I still think like it's expensive trash. Like, you can definitely see they've spent a lot of money on it. They've tried on a technical level, but they fail on a creative writing level, sadly. And I do think as well, like that's just being objective. Like, on a technical level, it's really well done. Like, it is really well done. Like, it looks great cinematography. Some of I don't like the effects. I don't like pin art. Like, a lot of people seem to be confused with the pin art thing. Pin art, like, what I mean by pin art is like those old office desk toys where you put your hand or your face in something and it would make an art out of pins.
Let's see if I can find an example. Yeah,
it's supposed to be like they're supposed to be mimicking nanotechnology. I think
I just think that's a really lame and uninspired version of the future, because everyone does it. Like, come up with something a bit newer and a bit original. Like, I'm sick of it now.
Did you ever see the first X-Men movie? You see the first X-Men movie, right? I mean, the scene in the map room where they showed
the first time I really remember seeing it after you asked that last
that's where
week.
where I kind of thought there it looked cool, because like, wow, you didn't see it, you didn't see that every day. But here it's just like, you know what, been there, done that.
Yeah, pin art. There you go. So that's how they do all the effects for the holograms and stuff, and it's a bit boring.
Oh yeah, it's very 2000s, just like early 2000s, just like Rob brought up. This is something we've been seeing, and you said the same thing last week, Mr. H. We've seen it in sci-fi movies time and time again over the past 2 decades. That it's just getting old and redundant. As much money as they spend on these shows, there's no excuse. They should be coming up with something much more inventive.
Yeah, and so I still think, look, they've spent a good level on, it's good on a technical level, but the writing is really, really poor. And God, do I have some opinions of this, this current episode with them basically retconning a character out of existence. Like, oh my God.
Share your feelings. Share your feelings.
That's they literally spend the entire episode saying how Michael Burnham's a brand new person, a brand new character. She's changed. I've got quotes. They spend it like there's so much time. So literally. She says, I am different, right? I've got it all written down. She says, I am different. So I said, I am different, changing the character ? They're literally replacing the character with Saru as the captain, right? Mm-hmm. To then the comments of Ginger Girl to Michael Burnham, you do seem lighter somehow. And I remember that conversation? Then Philippa, is it Philippa, the Asian lady?
Yep.
Yeah. Asian lady goes, in another life, I would have said X, Y, and Z about Michael Burnham, but in this one, I'm not so sure. Because she's so different. Because she's so changed.
And yet she's
still... You want to know why? You want to know why she's so changed? Why they have to hammer us with how changed she is? For the past 2 seasons...
Fucking useless.
Yeah, well, basically, for the past 2 seasons, she was written as such a Mary Sue that it would make Ray jealous. And all of us viewers, we were meant to be like, oh, wow, she's so great, she's so awesome. But no one responded that way. On the contrary, everyone hated her. But still, the whole show revolves around her. It's not Star Trek, it's not a bridge crew, it's the Michael Burnham show, plus all the side characters that either need her help to bail them out or talk about how awesome she is at every single moment. Yet the audience didn't respond. So as we said last week, her getting high, that was basically her
Transformation.
sharing her feelings and her transformation and showing, oh, look, she has emotions. She's relatable. She's not just a block of wood. And that's what they're doing right here. They're like, oh, we have to change you to be more relatable. So now you can smile and stuff instead of showing that you're the superior Spock in every single scene, which is kind of what she was doing. Only she was the superior piece of wood, not rather than the superior Spock. So that's the story.
But here's another thing for you, Mr. H. You may not know. The Philippa Georgiou in this episode or in this series that we're seeing, she's from a mirror universe. She actually doesn't really know this Michael all that well. In truth, the original one died in the pilot of Star Trek Discovery, and then they
she was eaten
traveled to a mirror universe, grabbed this one because they think it's the same, and now they act as though they are the same, but they're technically not. They're very different people. So everything that she says about what Michael should do is by logic conjecture, but the story needs them to both be right, so they just manipulate the outcome so that it ends up being true. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, like I said, for 2 seasons, we didn't know anybody's name on the show except for the immediate people surrounding Mikey Sue Spock, and everyone. And
so much so that I had no fucking clue who 2 of the characters were this time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tom asked me, who's Blondie standing under the tree? I'm like, she's the one that was Nebula without the makeup. Why did she, where did they find her? I don't know. I can't keep track of it myself half the time.
Yeah, I was like, where did she fucking come from?
Who cares? I'm her. Yeah, her.
Yeah, the cute one.
Yeah. Give her more screen time.
And then I forgot. Yeah, I remember the other guy.
Prosthetics.
And I forgot. Yeah, the other guy was there, but I noticed him like the week before or the day because that was like the first line he had ever gotten.
That's LeBron.
Yeah, that's like
Christ.
the first line I think he'd ever gotten, maybe since the first season.
Well, yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
there's
remember
that one
getting
Asian guy that just talks about tactical because that's all he knows how to do.
That's not Sulu. The Asian guy's not Sulu. Yeah, but
So-
at this.
so-
I'm
so
sorry.
we started out back in time. Why did we start back in time? And I know why, because I've got thoughts about this, right? So we start back in time, yeah, to show the progression of her hair, and it's all told through her sending a signal, isn't it? Right? We can all agree, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So why the fuck, ladies and gents, if that entire thing is told through her sending a signal, was it a recording or was she imagining it because the recording gets interrupted in real time? Did you notice that?
She's recording.
We've all agreed it's a recording, yeah?
Yeah.
How?
Yep.
How does it get interrupted then in real time?
They don't even know. They're just writing this shit, and they don't care how or if it makes sense.
It literally doesn't make sense at all. Like
No.
her recording, it's in her head. She's imagining it. She's going through how she would tell the crew what's been going on.
Yeah,
That's
she's
the only
rehearsing
conclusion
inner monologue rehearsal.
Yeah.
I
She doesn't
think
actually
here
send it.
and
Because
it bears
it gets interrupted
repeating
in
one of
real
the
time.
rumors that we consistently heard during the production of this season, that it was a hell to assemble in editing because the filming, they got like many scenes, but they didn't get loads of the connective tissue that they needed, which is why they needed reshoots, and they still didn't get everything, and it was all a nightmare to edit apparently, and they were only so pleased with the results.
Yeah.
Are those rumors that you are inclined to believe, Mr. H, after seeing what you've seen so far?
Well, I mean, the editing's not the standout horrendous thing here. Like, it's genuinely just the writing. So, I don't know. The writing's just bad. Like, the writing is awful. It's not so much the editing that looks
It could
horrendous.
be that it was written a slightly different way, but then it's a matter of how to assemble it
Well,
with
yeah,
the
but then we
footage that
don't
they
know.
have.
Based on the rumors, then maybe, because what is apparent is that the writing is bad, which it could be assembled in a way which gives the illusion the writing's bad, but it was just the editing.
Well, I assure you that the writing was bad in any
No.
event.
This
But I think
episode
that
felt like a bad TV show written by idiots who think they know what Star Trek is like.
20 producers it took to come up with this.
And also as well,
Was it 20 for this episode? Because I noticed the producers are less frequent on the opening credits than previously.
I count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Usually it's 28 or so. This is only 20, so this is an improvement.
How do you have more producers than you have cast?
That's what I always brought up. It's like that's the problem with the show. Too many
Too big
cooks.
of a writer's room.
DJ D2 said at the same time I did. Too many chefs in the kitchen. Exactly.
Too many chefs,
yes.
and they're all the Swedish chef. Tom, yeah.
The flame is on fire. Yes, this whole fucking thing is burning.
Yeah. And like I said, within the first 15 seconds, she's doing this message or personal log. Every effort to develop an alternate warp technology has failed. They have alternate warp technology. The Romulans have it. Voyager had it. Nobody's seen shit. I'm working for the show.
They even mentioned it in the first episode of Slipstream.
They basically, here's what they wanted to do, and they should have done in the first place. They wanted to obviously tell the story of the beginning of Starfleet and have humans fix everything for everybody. That's what they wanted. And the only way to do that is totally destroy Starfleet, which is what we've got now. And Andre, I know we got a couple super chats we should probably get to here soon too.
Yeah, we can do that, and then we'll get to Mr. H's next point and go through it.
Yeah, he's
point
actually
by
got
point.
points.
Which is impressive for this. Jack
we
Beers
gave up on that 2 years ago, dude.
Yeah, but I listened, but then I got influenced by you people, so I stop with that. But yeah, it's good that we have Mr. H to give us some structure again. Jack Beers sent us 2 super chats back to back. First one said that Voyager brought back quantum slipstream tech of transwarp conduits in Picard. They had a Borg ship and used a conduit/spatial trajector. What happened to all of this alternative tech? Yeah, exactly as pointed out. And he also said, why do they say that only ships that were in warp blew up, but show a bunch of stationary ships exploding?
I did notice that.
Good observation, very good observation. And Miranda Sinistra said, on the plus side, at least they're not hiding the fact that they're producing blatant propaganda. Oh, they've been very open about that in their defense. And Sister Harrow sent us 5 Australian dollars with no comment that I can see, but we really appreciate your support as always. Great viewer on many of our channels, so we always appreciate have you join us. And Nightwish fan 1991 says, leave Mr. H alone. He is innocent, doesn't deserve the torture, as we said already, but I think it bears repeating. On that note, Rama said, oh, Mr. H, perfect. I have seen his reaction to this train wreck. Now I really want to know Mr. H's opinion on Vulcan logic extremists. Are you familiar with that concept, Mr. H?
We brought it up a little bit last week, but really didn't get into it.
That's a paradox. It doesn't make sense.
Yes, you're correct.
Well, no, it is, isn't it? That's a paradox.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
You are indeed correct, but still, Star Trek Discovery had the need to absolve other extremists by making other people that possibly can't be extremists, just to show that, oh, look, anyone can be an extremist.
Yeah, you can be a logic purist, which is the Kolinar, but that's as far as it goes.
And I mean, the closest we came to this was Spock's brother, and even he wasn't as outrageous as these guys.
Cybok?
Yeah.
He was
a passionate Vulcan. Yeah.
He was crazy cultist, but
he was just trying to embrace emotions and trying to find God or whatever.
And he's normal compared to many of these people.
But what does God do with a starship?
Tom, that your Shatner impression.
To think that we would ever come to a time when we looked back upon that as good Star Trek.
I know, right?
Doomcock
will tell you it's great. Actually, that's one of Doomcock's favorite films.
Give me First Contact. Give me
any day over this shit. I'll watch Insurrection 6 times in a row before I watch this.
How about Nemesis?
And Nemesis.
Well, that was beautifully shot. Yeah, but
And
anyway,
at least
guys,
that's got Tom Hardy in it.
we're getting distracted.
Yes, we are.
Moving
Yes, we
on
are.
with super chats
That
just
just
to
shows
get
you how
caught up.
badly this it sucks that we're getting
Yeah.
distracted.
Michael D. False, was that how you said it? I think it was so. Michael D. False said Earth is isolated, not in Federation. At least she didn't take the captaincy, but she ignores Saru. This is not Star Trek. Og, help, drink. Yeah, drink. Fuck girls. That's what is needed to get through this.
I think we all need to take a step back anyway. We're getting way ahead of ourselves. So I think it's really important to take a look at actually the fact that this burn subject has come up quite a few times. So one, I've got 2 points on this. The burn is the brand new MacGuffin. They literally say we don't know why or how, right? So it is the out and out new MacGuffin.
Yeah, it's the MacGuffin of the season. Every season has one.
Well, every show that's bad with bad writing will always have, and regardless whether you think this is good or bad, identify any series that you dislike. They'll always have a MacGuffin, and it's always something that's inexplicable, like it just happens and no one really knows, and it's maybe existential and blah blah blah. It's all thought provoking. It's meant to be, but it's not. So that's their MacGuffin. But how much, right? Because I wrote here when we get through all that crap, right, about the recording, the back in time business. One, her hair shouldn't grow that long. Is she replicating hair in space? Is she got
Book's doing that little chant thing that he did to get the plant to grow. He's doing it for her head.
Exactly, that's it. Because that's bad.
She's
like
got
hair doesn't
chia
grow
hair
that
now?
long. Like that's completely wrong. But then I wrote the bridge scene. Absolutely, the amount of exposition we keep getting over events that we learned already in episode 1. How many times are they going to tell us exactly the same thing? We know that the burn happened. We know. And also we know that the crew knows because they just went to a planet on the second episode. Mm-hmm. We don't all need to keep hearing it.
Probably because the script was right that this is part of what's left over of the original pilot for this, or not pilot, but first episode for this season.
It's a pilot. They're effectively rebooting.
Yeah, because I think script you had an idea.
Fuck me.
Yeah, I think you had an idea that they recut these first few episodes or some shit like that in this way.
Yeah, I suspect that the first 2 episodes was originally one. The narrative twist was that both stories were happening at the same time. Burnham was on one side of the planet, the Discovery was on the other. And by the end, the twist is that, oh no, Burnham's was actually a year earlier, and now she's found the Discovery, and that's like your twist. But I don't think they stuck the landing on the writing side of things, and the editing caught that, and so that's why they had to go back and reshoot some things to sort of break them up into 2 separate stories and then try and fill them out.
So
because
this third episode would have originally been part of the second episode.
Not a long time.
Yeah,
a year is not a long time. It's not a twist.
Especially the way she's acting.
Well, the
she's
twist
all
is that you think both stories are happening at the same time originally in the episode, but by the so let's say this is.
Why would anyone? Because in the first episode, they already say that they could arrive in 1,000 years. So we're literally set there, ready.
Oh no, that's not what I was referring to. I was referring to that the 2 episodes we saw are not what they were originally. That it was actually one episode.
Yeah,
the opening was that they both fly through the wormhole at the same time, and we think it's the same time. But the twist at the end is that it's not the same time.
It's only been moments for them, a year for her, and then this episode we just watched would have then been the second episode, is what I was trying to say. Yes,
that what you've just said there would have been better.
It would have been, but I don't think they stuck the landing.
I think they fucked it up, and that's what he's saying. Yeah. And it was too confusing, probably, because you also have this other situation, going back to your notes, Mr. H, that I thought you brought up an interesting point. You have a ship that's from 1,000 years in the past that's supposed to be figuring out a mystery box in the future that people in the present have no fucking clue about, who are closer to said event.
Yeah, and with
that
I have a major complaint about that, by the way.
And Tom, they've also had 150 years to figure it out. They also had a 150-year head start on them too.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, because that's something that really, really bugged me. Because like this Earth lady, the one who on the Brexit isolationist Earth.
I've got so much stuff.
No, she's like the leader of ISIS. That's what she is.
Yeah. So anyway,
she's a Doctor Who leftover. I've seen her. I've seen her on Doctor Who before.
But in any event, though, the thing that really bothered me about that, she was like talking about like after the burn, we tried to rebuild. Lady, the burn was somewhere between 300 and 150 years ago, you've had like what, 5-6 generations. You don't need to talk about the burn as if it happened in the last 10 years or even the last 30 years. It didn't happen in your lifetime or the lifetime of anyone alive right now. I mean, seriously, no matter how much you rebuilt or anything like that, by now it's a new normal. It's a distant past. No one is freaking going on talking about it.
You have to think about this. Like, I think you're right,
no
Andre.
one today goes and talking about, after World War I, we did this and rebuilt.
No. I get what he's saying.
This is like...
Well, let me say this. It's like if we were going, like, say, 300 years from now, if people looked back and said, you know, God, life sucked since we don't have gasoline anymore. We never came up with an alternate fuel source like, you know, electricity or anything. You know, that's the whole thing. Andre's bringing up the point. You've had a society that has lived without dilithium now for however many years. And even though they've already had alternate forms of travel in this, you know, galaxy already, or in this universe, in quotations for the Star Trek universe, they're still trying to set up this thing like we don't have this gasoline. Now dilithium is like gas in the Mad Max world, basically. It's like after 300 years, they haven't found anything else to replace it. Is that what you're getting at, Andre?
No, that's not what I'm getting at. I'm not at all.
No,
what
Tom,
I'm getting at. Okay, guys, I'll give a parallel. Okay, I'm from Norway. You know what happened like several hundred years ago, like in 1814? Then Denmark was aligned with the wrong side in the Napoleon Wars. And because of that, Norway was given as a gift to Sweden. It would be like me saying today, like, you know, centuries ago, we were given to Sweden and we're still recovering and we try to rebuild. No one freaking talks about that. It's ancient history. That's kind of like what I mean. This lady is talking about the burn as if it was something that she experienced and it's a collective trauma. Right?
Oh my God.
That's what I mean. That's
what
what I mean. When it's in her distant past, she never lived through it. She never experienced. She and generations before her grew up.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
That's
it's not an event that would be a part of her life. Like, no one should give a fuck about the burn. It became normal. Like, it would have traumatized.
It'd be like a millennial sitting there going, "Oh my God, World War II is so it just."
Not even that. No,
Civil War.
Even worse than that. Civil War.
Napoleon Wars. Napoleon Wars is what we're talking about. Yeah, the Civil War, Napoleon Wars. Talking about that
modern day.
After that, we
but that still goes to my whole point of why are they living in this Mad Max fucking world revolving around this fuel source when they're so far beyond any of that shit. I still don't get it. None of it makes sense.
Modern day Russians living in Moscow lamenting that Napoleon burned down the city.
Right. I get that now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Well, and that goes back to my whole point before about the whole deal with Lower Decks and them bringing up all these captains from the past. It's like, you're really going to sit there and talk about a captain from 300 fucking years ago? Seriously? You know?
Like I said, and they've had no. And like I said, Michael Burnham. All efforts to develop an alternative fuel source of warp drive have failed. They have alternative warp drives. The Romulans use an artificial singularity to power their warp drives. I pulled it up. Quantum slips. I pulled them up. Subspace resonator, Tetrion plasma warp drive, tricyclic plasma drive, warp 5 engine, warp 3 engine, Yo-Yodyne pulse drive. They have alternative warp drives.
Well, let's not forget the mushrooms.
And the freaking magic mushroom drive. So by this logic, this whole series is the premise. This whole series is built on is invalidated because the Romulans would now be the strongest force in the galaxy because they still have warp drive,
and their ships wouldn't have been destroyed by the burn. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but that requires thinking, and that requires skilled writers who understand Star Trek, and that is something that if you have that, you cannot work on this show.
You see now that would be more interesting. That if all, let's just take it for a moment. If all the dilithium did go kablooey, then since the burn, the Romulan Empire spread throughout the Alpha Quadrant. Oh, now the Romulans are everywhere, and now we have to deal with the Romulans being assholes. Now, how do we rebuild Starfleet to beat back the threat of the Romulans from taking over the known galaxy. Ah, now there's a show.
Yes, that is a show.
But Mr. H, let's move on to your next point.
You've superseded them, dude. Like there was stuff way before that even came out. So there's all the English shitty exposition that happens, right? So we kind of covered that, right? Now, I said this in the last one, didn't I? I said about how they all go from side to side, right? We covered that, didn't we? How they all go from side to side when the ship moves and things like that. And someone said something along the lines of like, well, no, it's because of inertial dampers or something like that. Fine. Absolutely fine, right? So they move, but then so that's how they experience the movement, doesn't it? Yeah. We can all agree on that?
Yeah, sure.
So how the fuck don't they all die like they're in a blender when the ship spins 1,000 times a second before it goes to Earth? Anyone seen that?
Yeah.
Well, no,
we were asking that in season 1. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but like, because I said this in my review, right? And people are like, yeah, but because of this idiot. And I'm like, well, I'm so glad you chimed in then, son. Because it doesn't make sense. Because of what you've using your own logic, it doesn't make any sense. They'd all be dead in a blender. Like tomato sauce everywhere.
Yeah. It's when the special effect didn't line up with the practicality of the universe.
But they would, wouldn't they? They'd all be dead. Like the whole ship spins like 1 billion times a second.
Well,
like,
it spins in 2 axes. It spins in 2 axes. So the ring of the saucer spins in one direction, and then the whole ship spins in an opposite direction. So you get a whole type of weird, disorienting wonderment.
So I found that out, and I was just like, this is unbelievable. Like, how are they? How aren't they all dead?
Yeah,
like,
Mr. H, I actually have a question about that. I was wondering, how would you react to that sudden teleportation to Earth? Because now you heard that Burnham, she couldn't go there, and her whole year of not doing anything that should change her, because she was in a sexless relationship with her friend for a whole year, sipping around, getting adventures that could be referenced Galaxy Quest style, so they could talk about their own coded language and all of that kind of bullshit. She could never go to Earth, but now the Discovery is able to like teleport itself to Earth by revolving around 2 axes simultaneously. Did you get that, and what did you think about it?
Well, no, I was just more like I was really more hung up on the fact that they all didn't die, because in the previous episode it showed the fact that they move when the ship moves. So I was just more hung up on the fact that they're not like tomato sauce on.
Okay, okay, then probably I feel that an explanation of that is in order. How they were able to
say
get there.
to explain that, honestly.
Okay, listen to this. The entire universe is infected by a yeast infection. There is literally, there's a mycelial network. These are mushrooms. That's what this super blonde albino gay guy is like explaining, that he connects into this thing, and then he's a 3rd stage guild navigator who is able to access this STD that goes through the entire universe and somehow then ride the mushrooms from one point to the other. This, by the way, was also their way of not teleporting just to any point in the known universe, but also to alternate dimensions like the mirrored universe. So basically, they travel on mushrooms.
Yeah, that's why they had 2 jokes this episode about the mushrooms, which was kind of like jabs at themselves, which is funny.
Wasn't there a big plot point last season where they shouldn't be doing that because it's damaging their that mushroom universe?
Well, not just that. I think Stamets he didn't even know how many times he could survive doing it anymore or anything like that.
Yeah, but he's all better now.
Yeah, of course he's all better now.
Yeah, because the plot needs him to be better. I mean, it's everything is everything's a Deus Ex Machina in this.
That's awful. That's what a no. That's terrible. What a terrible idea.
That's also why they had like this. What are they called again? Like this
the
blue animal.
Does make more sense. Great
tardigrade.
The tardigrade, yeah, because originally it was a giant tardigrade that was the 3rd stage guild navigator that was controlling this mycelial network thing that allowed them to.
What? How do they have a name for it? Who's named it?
No, I named it.
I'm this. Now you're this. You're now this. It's like the crow. I'm the crow. You're the crow. We're all crows. Like what?
No, it's just obvious that they ripped off Dune because they need a 3rd stage guild navigator that they can't call a 3rd stage guild navigator But what they had was a tardigrade. That was their third stage guild
that they ripped off
navigator,
from a
and then-
video game, so they had to kind of try and find a way to get that.
But
out
how
of
did
the
they know that
situation.
the tardigrade? What?
Don't even get me down that fucking road.
How did they even know about the tardigrade?
Well,
Because of
Found
that
it on
video
another
game.
ship.
because there's the video game, and because it destroyed another ship. So they figured, hey, because it destroyed this ship, we can use it to navigate on the Mushroom Highway,
So
which
it
makes
should've been-
no fucking sense
well, basically, they
tardigrade-
ripped this. Yeah.
destroyed a ship,
from the inside, yeah, and killed all the crew.
and did it kill itself?
No,
So
After it did that, they caught it and used it as a third stage guild navigator to ride the mushroom wave around the universe. We're not making this up.
No, we're not.
Yeah, I
the
wish
Federation's not supposed to capture creatures.
Oh yeah, it totally goes
that's
against every. Yeah,
it's
You're supposed to just capture, like,
so
it's not a
stupid.
zoo for fuck's sake.
It's so
not a zoo.
stupid.
oh yeah. It's that bad. It's like the zoo level bad.
Their
Thank you.
captain
Yeah.
had a trophy room originally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's where it was
and-
caught in the
and-
captain's trophy room. This is true.
and-
This captain also, and twist, he was from the mirrored universe, and he
Yeah.
was one of the two
Which I'm not even
useful
sure if they
people
knew
in all
that.
of Starfield.
Well, no. And then his head of security went into the tardigrade's enclosure, and everyone said, "Oh, that's not a good idea. We better sedate this thing. Nah, it'll be fine." And it tears her to pieces, killing her.
Yeah, this was their little alien homage, or ripoff, rather.
Don't like it. It's super lame.
Yeah, no one liked it.
Like, why?
And that's why they tried to walk it back, but now suddenly they needed to get to Earth. And how do they do that? Oh, we go right back into the navigating the yeast infection
But how
spanning
does
the
he do it? 'Cause
universe.
he pulled up his arm, didn't he? He was like, I can do it because I've got this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, he injected
What the fuck
himself
is
with
that, man?
tardigrade DNA. and
Yeah.
that's how
Yes,
it works.
so he's part tardigrade. That's how he made himself a third stage guild navigator, by injecting tardigrade into him.
Because that's how it works. It's like Marvel now in the '60s.
Yeah.
ridiculous. Honestly.
I mean,
Because science is fucking awesome.
So he's
Did,
part tardigrade.
I
as,
like
as
science.
much as I complimented the technical level, did anyone notice the incredibly bad sound mixing when Michael Burnham and Saru were walking down the hallway? You could hear their clothes scuffing against themselves.
You want to know why they probably
over
didn't?
their voices? Did you know that?
Not
Do you
only
know what it
that,
is?
Saru's mouth didn't move that entire shot.
I know why, and I think we brought this up last time. I don't think they've been able to do a lot of ADR because of the situation. Because normally you can understand Saru in the first two seasons, and in the last.
But if your
couple-
sound
in the-
mixing is good enough, and also your
Yeah.
mic placement is good enough, you wouldn't need to because you wouldn't
Yeah.
be capturing the sound of the
but that's the
clothes.
problem. They don't
They-
know
they-
how to do that shit.
You think they would send everybody in the cast a mic, and recording software and some, like Pro Tools.
It's not that easy, Rob, because the problem is like look, it is very difficult to expect any actor to be able to figure out how to set up a sound situation where they're going to be able to do ADR and make it sound just as good and mix with somebody else's stuff. That's why it's real difficult, and that's why I think they just decided not to do it. But since their costumes and everything make so much fucking noise, that's probably why they normally have to do a lot of ADR. But like we were pointing out last week, like when Saru was talking, you could hear the
Oh, yeah.
prosthetic on his mouth, and we never had that problem before. And I think that's just because they haven't been able to do any kind of extra noise
No,
sweeping.
they can't get anybody into a studio. Even like the sound engineers, they can't get those guys into the studios either.
I will say one additional thing about the sound mix. I'm not able to pinpoint exactly what was wrong with it, but it's something with the combination of it and the tempo with which things were filmed that made me very, very, very aware throughout that what I was watching was acting. Like, I think
that's
that
just their shit
someone,
acting.
Especially when they brought
Really
in the
bad.
non-binary 6.
I
When
thought
what?
the whole thing, but yeah, let's get into that in due course.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, so I put that the officers are incredibly disobedient. How's that ever a thing with Star Trek?
It's not, but they just do whatever the hell they want whenever the
Like,
plot calls for it.
I think
Saru's demanding that Ginger Borg lady goes and moves the ship, right? So they take the hit from Earth, and she only just does it in the nick of time. Like when what?
When they
When were
all
they super
learned from
disobedient?
Michael Burnham that if you disobey a direct order, you are always and without exception right. So maybe they're learning her rebellious tendencies.
Ridiculous. And I've only got one more note, but that's the closing thing. So I'll get.
Yeah. Okay, then I'm going to go through the remaining super chats, and then we're going to continue with the non-binary 6.
Oh, the 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, but the first leftover super chat is insane hippie insane for $20. Thank you so much. Says, well, who wants to point out how stupid they handle Earth going isolationist but ignoring its in-system colonies when they would be essential in doing that at all? Oh, and Rob voiced my frustration on the Romulan warp drive. So yeah, good going, Rob. And Adam Wofford says, everyone has developed warp drive without dilithium. How the hell did all of the dilithium crystals were destroyed? My head hurts to think of anything. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how or what stupid solution they found to that when we get that far. And Jake Sully says, is it safe to say that the Star Trek we know and love has no place in today's TV format? I feel like they're trying to appeal to two audiences. Actually, I disagree. There is absolutely a room for Star Trek today. Look at the Orville. That's Star Trek today. They're not trying to appeal to two audiences. Well, actually, they are. They're trying to appeal to, how do we put it, the crowd that is very vocal on Twitter, and to an imaginary audience that don't exist, that they think that they're making this for. It's like some young, cool audience that would spring into existence but never did. And Lost Jedi 22 says, why does the sphere allow the ship to take the torpedo hits? Is it cool with being blown up? 100 points for Detmer being the new person with a secret. That goes a little bit back
everybody's
to
got
what
a
you were
secret.
saying. Yeah. And the
Mystery box.
Dreamer out there, this is final one, a nitpick. It showed Saturn to Earth in 30 seconds.
Isn't that because he can move real fast?
Well, that or they have no fucking clue. They don't care.
I think it's that.
You might want to refresh. Was there any more after that?
No, with that we
Okay.
are fully caught up to
All
this
right.
point. So let's then move on with the next round. So carry on, Tom. Take it from here. Yeah.
Every place is like really close to every other place in JJ Trek. You know, it takes them like 8 minutes to go from Earth to Vulcan.
3, actually.
Well, yeah. And just like Vulcan's moon, which they don't have one, you know, is right next door to the planet, and you could see Vulcan implode from it.
Yeah. But distances aside, let's get on with a new character introduced in this episode. Tom, would you like to take us through that?
Well, we got introduced to I don't even know her name, but she's got people living. She hears dead people.
Oh, it's Adira.
It's a he, she, them, they are non-binary 6. Makes their first appearance in this episode. That'd be this person here.
Yep.
I don't want to misgender said person, but they got their shit so screwed up. Variety, I mean, the big folks even messed up their synopsis here because they talk about the new characters, the other new character who we haven't met yet this year. But the explanation they give for this character is actually this character. So I don't know.
They made a big fuss
on.
about that, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's not how it is it? In the episode,
Unless these two characters are going to be similar, because this whole like thing explains it as Ian Alexander will play Gray, a trans man who has spent his life as a Trill planning to be a host for a symbiotic alien species that lives in different hosts. Okay, so maybe that alien species that's in her, him, them, they is going to go into them.
Maybe,
okay.
yeah.
This is like just
It's
weird.
confusing, but it's
well, no, they're separate characters, aren't they? So
Yeah.
the one on the left is a trans actor and a will be a trans character.
Yeah.
And the one on the right is a non-binary actor playing apparently in the show a non-binary character. But I didn't
As
get
far
the
as we
feeling
know,
it
they
was a
haven't made the
non-binary
big deal
character.
yet.
I didn't get
They
that.
will at some point say like them, they, or whatever all the time you watch.
Well, I think they're building to it, but they made such a big song and dance out of it that you're like, it's not. Do you know what I mean? You're almost expecting them to do it straight away, which seems a bit silly that they didn't, because I mean, they made a massive song and dance about it. Just do it. Like,
well, I'm gonna say the same thing I said on Twitter when the Glad whatever retweeted this story in the first place. I don't care about the characters that are on the show now, so why should I give a shit about these new characters that are coming in and what's between their fucking legs? I don't care about the non-binary 6. I don't care about Translate Crusher. Make me care about the characters that are there first, and then maybe I'll care about these new characters. And I'll care even less about them if all you're telling me that's important about them is what's between their fucking legs.
Because it's inclusive. Don't you know that, Tom? There's so
I don't care.
stunning.
Linda Hunt played a guy in a movie. Guess what? I didn't care.
So
Didn't
stunning.
care.
Right. They're stunning and brave.
But the thing is, actually no one does care. That's the
Yes,
thing.
exactly.
They've had them before. They've had them in. They've had non-binary, and I presume probably within that sort of realm where people characters chose which gender they would be were actually trans as well, right? They're making a big song and dance about it because they've hired, because apparently this is the world we live in now, that only trans people can play trans people and only non-binary people can play non-binary people. That's why they're making a massive big song and dance about it. It's bloody ridiculous.
Hooray! Workplace discrimination.
Hey, they cornered the market. They're now like, what is it? Like 20 people can now do every single one of those roles in all of Hollywood now.
Have you got some filters on with your chat? I think you do.
Not that I know of. Why?
No, I don't think so.
No,
I think you do.
Why?
I think like a very severe curse word's filtered, because I just typed that in the chat and my comment hasn't turned up.
Oh, that might be just the default setting for
right. Okay. Well,
Because I'm not even
someone in the
to
chat said
approve
they
it.
needed to check this white boy, aka me, about someone about black hair. So I just said, "Well, you're a racist cunt. Shut the fuck up."
Oh, probably because said cunt. Yeah.
Cheers.
sounds
Yeah.
better when you.
Yeah, I know the troll you're
about 3
talking
years
about.
to grow. It doesn't matter what race you are.
And they're causing a big enough disturbance.
fucking
If they don't
retard.
knock it the fuck off, I'm gonna boot them. So
No, I would suggest you do. She's being racist.
Yeah,
I'm a white boy.
I've gotten to that
You don't know
point
my
now.
ethnicity, you absolute piece of shit retard.
they had a chance to chill
Hey.
the fuck out, and they haven't. So
Hey, I don't see color. People tell me I'm white. I take their word for it. Okay.
Anyway, so let's move on, shall we? Sorry, I've skewed the conversation, but they made such a massive big song and dance about it by writing these kind of articles. But not only that, actually posting it absolutely everywhere. That they should have just come out and done it, like just said, yeah, they whatever, they should have just done it from the off. I feel the fact that they have they've trodden so gently around it, they're making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. The thing is, it should just be blasé, right? Like, no one cares if you pronounce yourself as they, them. Like, literally, no one gives a toss. But the fact that they're like, oh, I feel like there's more to you than meets the eye. It's like, come on, just get to it. Just say it.
Right.
I like what they did
do
in
it.
the Orville, because there they just did it. No announcements, no
Right.
nothing, no. Look at how amazing and progressive. They just did it, and they did it amazing, and not really contrived and virtue signaling, which is what they're doing
Right.
right here. When they have like the need to put like huge articles. Look at how virtuous we are.
How
Look at that.
progressive.
Yeah, exactly. Because they announced a bunch of new characters, and honestly, the one that
hate to
intrigues
tell
me
them
the most
John Waters
is
did
the
it 50 years ago.
Yeah.
But this is the thing as well. Like, no one actually cares. It's more the fact that you're sort of pushing it and pushing it. And pushing
You
it.
know who cares?
do
They're-
it.
You know who cares? All their buddies in Hollywood care.
Well,
yeah.
Look, we have non-binary characters in our show.
Well, like I
Oh,
just said, John Waters, did it 50 years ago. We brought up, Linda Hunt, as just pointed out in the chat. Peter Pan was played by a woman many, many times. Michael Jackson's been played by a woman for the last 30 years of his life. I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, it's just no. I'm kidding, of course. On the
Tom,
last
this
one, but
might be a good place to bring up your experience from Star Trek Las Vegas.
Which one?
The one with them basically competing and shouting at all the things that they thought that they did first.
Oh, well, see, actually,
God, really?
Rob was a president of a lot more of those than I was.
Yeah.
But some of, they were just it was getting repulsive. That's why I kind of took off after a while. Because, unless it was like, Shatner doing his little stand-up routine kind of thing, it was everybody up there just from the new cast toting how fucking woke they are, how they're the first ones to do this, how they're the first ones to have this black person, how they're the first ones to have this and that and the other. And then, what's his face who plays Dr. Phlox?
John Billingsley.
John Billingsley finally piped up and he goes, "Now wait a minute." And what did he say, Rob?
He said, "My character had like what, 2 husbands or whatever on the show.
Had like 8 wives and their husbands and whatnot.
Yeah, 8 wives and their husbands.
Weird family.
Yeah, so I was the first, first bisexual character on Star Trek ever.
Yeah, and then plenty times over, every time they bring like, now let me get, wait a minute, we were pretty progressive too. They would the other cast members would point out from the older shows. Yeah,
Roxanne Dawson. She said, you know what, we never felt the need to make this a big deal because it's just something we did. We didn't call attention to it. Kate Mulgrew actually said something about that too. I mean, there is a schism between the new cast of this STD and the old casts who did all these things and they never called attention to it because to them, it wasn't a question of normalizing. It was just, hey, this is just what we're doing.
Well, yeah, and that was what it was all about, was the virtue signaling. And oh my God, could they virtue signal or anti-Trump speak? And the only one who kind of got from the classic cast that actually like got up there and talked about this shit, and if anything, felt like they put their foot in their mouths, was what was it, Marina Sirtis, who was talking about the episode?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, I wish that they would have gone all the way, and I could have blah 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 this and that and the other." I'm like, yeah, but that would have been going against the character.
Yeah, Mecca actually brings up a great point. We saw the Rat Pack show at the closing of there's a closing ceremony, and the cast of Deep Space Nine, and there was a couple other people like Nana Visitor and a couple of the guys. Nana Visitor, yeah. They sang, "How can we save Discovery?" An homage to just how truly awful Star Trek Discovery is.
Well, and you could tell there was a definite divide between classic fans, the Discovery fans, and a lot of the people with this. There was a lot of Discovery shirts there, don't get me wrong, but I didn't really feel like I'm not going to say that it was, but
I got the vibe from them.
They were plants. Or people who worked for CBS and shit.
Or that they had their tab picked up by CBS or whatever.
Yeah, like most of them, I didn't really feel like, because there was no cosplayers there from anything. There was one Saru there, I think, and that was it.
But the other thing too is that you would sense the hostility in the air when the Discovery.
And I think one other person had a Discovery uniform, but I don't remember seeing jack squat from Discovery outside.
I saw actually a few people with Orville uniforms on, which was great.
Yeah, there was more people. Let's put it this way: I remember seeing more Orville stuff than I do regular Star Trek Discovery cosplayers. But there was a lot of Discovery T-shirts, and they were all the same.
Yeah,
and
disco.
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. H, what's next on your list?
I literally only have the closing scene on the list, so there's probably a lot more to talk about before that. I think they ultimately went. They're following the trend of Picard, aren't they? Earth is now isolationist.
Yeah.
Like it's. I mean, how much more blatant do you need to be? Oh, there's no Federation. You don't talk to anyone. There's no other planets. No. So goddamn, come on.
And they're talking about Earth being self-sufficient
because they become isolationists. Yeah.
They said Picard was going to set up this season.
Yeah, well, I mean, it does, doesn't it, through and through? Like that whole thing, that whole shtick of like, oh yeah,
I'm just so sick of this nihilistic, dark, dour shit.
But they need to ruin the universe to give themselves hope. They don't know how to do earnest things anymore. It's the same as what we were talking about when we were all reviewing Picard. Exactly the same stuff. Where's the earnest approach now? Where's the utopia? Where's the humanist? Yep, this is good. This is like, where is it? It's gone.
You're just talking words that those writers don't have the definitions for. That's basically it. And
just a shame.
And the also contradiction is that they say, "Oh, Earth is now self-sufficient." Since the 23rd century, Earth has been self-sufficient. They
We've
just
been
like to talk to
self-sufficient
other
since
planets.
forever.
Like that's what's great about it. And like
We
we're
didn't
still
need-
self-sufficient. I mean, it's
We
like,
didn't need to travel to space in the first fucking place.
yes, we did it to satiate our curiosity.
Yeah, that's another thing that really annoyed me. Like, just because space travel is gone doesn't mean that suddenly everything is going to collapse into Mad Max. Again, planet Earth did fine for like 2,000 years without space travel. Like, each planet should be self-sufficient. Like, the only thing that shouldn't be, like, for instance, okay, fine, I get that, like, the colonies, like Titan, like, it's going to be difficult to make things grow there. So
Well, what about
I
the
can
moon
kind of like
colony?
see that argument, but
They
but,
could have really explored that, but they didn't. That could have
Yeah.
been a fantastic whole. They could have gone to Titan. They could have seen it. They could have made this whole thing, you know. But no, they didn't. No,
pretty much. I thought
Yeah.
that was like
They
so
could have been actually
incredibly
ambushed by the Titan people on their way to Earth, and stopped it there. That would have been great.
yeah, and it would have been good as well. Like you'd have seen it from the ground roots level. You'd have actually seen how the burns affected people like that. That would have been good. But no, they stop in Earth's orbit, and instantly it's like, you know, bloody principal, you know, prick comes on the screen. Oh, how quaint! You still use this, do you? Like, shut up. Like, no one cares. Like, my God, just get on with it. Mate.
That's just space ice. That's what they are. They're space ice.
Where did the quit machine go? where did the quit machine? Where's she gone? She was all in the last episode. She's disappeared this time.
She is only in random episodes. Like she was another one, Tig Notaro. She was one they made a big deal out of when they brought her in. They had her for like 2 episodes, and then she disappeared.
Yeah,
for most of the season, then showed
She had
back
to go
up
back
again
on the
at
road
the
to do her stand up.
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
she was the most big and that's why I feel like these other characters, they're going to be like a 2 or 3 story arc or episode arc, and their story is going to be done.
Tokenism. It's tokenism. Yeah.
It was kind of like the whole thing with Stamets and the Dr. Culber. I was going to say Crusher. Culber. You know, like his whole, because he died, and then Stamets went and brought him back from the dead. And it was this whole fucking thing for like 4 or 5 episodes, and then it was done. You know,
They abandoned it in the first episode and the second episode of this the series.
But they really need to go somewhere.
It didn't even last that long,
really, as well, because they're building this up as something. Because she was the disobedient one, you know. Like, get on with it. Show us what you're trying to do.
Who was that? I didn't catch that part.
You know, so when I said that the officers were disobedient, it was the Borg one who in the second episode was going all weird, but they never went anywhere with it.
Oh yeah.
So
They do that from time to time. There's been plenty of times they've set those things up. It may come back. You never know.
It may, but then again, it might not. That's like the brilliant thing. Like, you have like this thing in writing that if you show a gun in Act 1, it has to be fired by Act so and so. Whereas here, they're like, yeah, okay, we'll set something up, but who knows if they're going to follow through with it? That's
bad.
That's how they do it.
How does Mickey Burnham? Yeah, how does Mickey B know that Wen or Yen, whatever the fuck his name was a human? Like, she took his mask off. He could have died.
No,
He
because
might not have been able to breathe air.
But she's so
that's
awesome.
a massive assumption, isn't it?
Yeah,
How?
it is.
Oh,
How
word.
did she
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But the people on Earth didn't when they were advanced tech. Eh? You tell me.
Welcome to Star Trek Discovery.
Remember what I said about are you ready to submit to the rule of Michael Burnham or something to along? That's what I meant. She is the awesomest Mary Sue ever, who even Ray will be jealous of for her superiority. I mean, this is the one that made Spock an emotional wreck because he was jealous of her for being so superior. This is the one that had to teach Spock how to be Spock because Spock was the stupid kid and he had like daddy issues because daddy preferred the adopted Earth daughter who was more true Vulcan than he was. He was like the stupid kid with the dyslexia. Yeah, that's true. They made Spock dyslexic, so he has Vulcan dyslexia. which means that compared to
Holy
other
shit.
Vulcans, Spock is a bit thick.
Holy shit.
Whereas
This is
Michael
what irritates
Burnham,
me when you
she's
create
right
characters.
up there with the best of Vulcans.
Yeah, they
But
basically
see-
paint Sarek as his whole entire life is made up of weird experiments.
This is what annoys me. You can make strong female characters without belittling men. It's very, very just it wears thin after a while because you can make an interesting character without belittling current standing like I don't know, prominent male characters. You don't need to belittle them for fuck's sake.
Just wait till they make me bi.
Which they will, because what was it they said? That the default position
Baseline,
this
everyone is
start-
baseline bi. That was
Yeah,
what they said.
that's the starting point. That's the normal.
What does that
And
even
then
mean?
well, I take it to mean that your average person is going to be bi, and then of course
Why
you have
would
like
they?
the minorities. You have like
Why?
minorities like those that are pure straight. That's a minority, and you have another minority that's like gay, and then you have like those that feel a little bit like one thing one day and the other another day, because that's what matters more than anything else.
Can I
But the
present
default position is that everyone is bi.
If
But
you're
just-
actually having relationships with other forms of life, which they clearly are by TOS, before TOS, because Spock himself is half Earthling and half Vulcan, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't kind of normal sexual human tendencies kind of just be like not even secondary, but like not even a thought on the spectrum at all? Like it's not even something you would really kind of.
You would think so, but if that were the case, then this series couldn't virtue signal about it.
That's the problem, and that's what I'm getting to is like because that's where we had already gotten by like TNG at that point. Like there was like very little even Enterprise. I think was the first time I really remember a lot of, that whole question of like because they had we brought it up last week or whatever, or the week before it was, where they had Trip had the issues with the species that had to have the third.
The progenitor.
Non-binary,
Yeah.
the progenitor. That's the one. Yeah. Like that is, one of the few times I remember sexuality coming into Star Trek and being a part of the game. I just don't understand why you can't do something like that instead of being so fucking blatant. Because at this point, we brought it up before. You wouldn't be trans. If you just decided you wanted to be a woman, the technology exists that you could really technically kind of probably change. We got people turned into fucking Klingons being put into people. I think being turned into a woman is probably something that Bones would say is like, I can do that in my sleep.
Yeah, probably
You
just
know.
inject you with
Take
one
two of
thing,
these and you'll be
that's it,
changed in
done.
the morning. Yeah.
Cutting yourself up. What barbaric crap is that? Like
Exactly. Take two of these. When it
Yeah.
falls off, give me a call.
oh, and these will grow. These will
just,
shrink. These will grow.
It's just not very good, is it?
No.
And then, so my final note is just the closing scene when they're all standing there next to the tree. It looks like it's the album cover for a Christian rock band. Like it legit does.
Finding God Among the Stars with Tilly as lead singer.
Like, does it not? Like, wasn't there a Christian rock band in like the 90s?
Yep.
Creed, wasn't it?
Creed,
that-
Striper,
that's
whatever.
I swear they did a video with a tree.
I think you're right. Yeah. Oh, for
I'm
God's
Googling
sake.
it. Creed video tree. They, I don't know.
Now you gotta be time to think about South. Now I'm thinking about the time in South Park where Cartman wanted to start a Christian rock band.
I thought about that as well.
Hmm.
It is, isn't it? It's a bloody Christian album cover. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. Nothing wrong with Christian album covers, but
No,
they just look weird on there because they're all standing there as if a drone's flying at them. Like, well, what the fuck are you doing?
yeah, Tilly and the Prophets, Tree of Life.
Well, you
know.
got to always have the lead singer though with his arms wide open.
Somebody staring
He's
off at the
crucified.
Somebody staring
Isn't
off
that
in the
legit
distance.
like a Creed lyric with arms wide open? Isn't
Yeah,
that
that's my whole point. Because Creed was like originally a Christian band, and then they like hit it big, and they're like, "Well, fuck that shit. I'm gonna fuck a bunch of bitches on."
I guess they
film
couldn't
with,
get their platinum
Kid Rock.
record
No
if
shit.
they're a Christian, right?
They're like, "There's much more levels to this than we can hit." You know. Anyway, back to the story at hand here. No, like the problem we have mainly with the show overall is the constant need to make it less Trek. And yet they keep saying, "Oh, we're going to make it more like Trek and more like Trek and more like Trek." And the last episode was the most like Trek we ever gotten. And now this episode, like I said earlier, just feels like a copy of a copy of a copy. Like somebody's like, "Yeah, give me an episode kind of like Star Trek." And it's this nondescript sci-fi show that has nothing to do with Star Trek. You know what I mean? And it is done so poorly and blatantly with right down to how the fuck did she know he was Lurch was a human when she pulled his mask off there, you know, when he had the Black Manta mask thing on, all the way
thing
down.
is, it wouldn't be that insulting if the Earth people were like, "Yeah, of course he is. What? Of course he is. What? Like, yeah, we knew that." But the fact that they turned around and was like, "Oh my god, you're a human!" Like, yeah, you should know this, dipshit. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they should have scanners that can identify their life form.
Or at least you took it. You, at least later admit that you. How'd you know he was human? I took a chance.
Yeah, just something to write away the stupidity of the scene. You know.
This is something that I actually miss about House MD. Remember that series with Hugh Laurie? There were times when he wasn't entirely sure, and he would just like suddenly come up and stab them with the vaccine and say, "I hope I'm right now. I think I'm right, but I'm not entirely sure." If there had been something like that, if she was like, "Please be human, please don't just like die in front of me now," because that would be so embarrassing. But
well, what's
no,
worse
of
is
course,
the only solution is, they just need to talk it out. You know, like years and years of war, all that's going to be just fixed right now because Mikey Spock said, "Y'all need to talk."
Yeah. She went to the Oprah Winfrey School of negotiation. Y'all just need to talk.
Maybe they're trying to make the new I don't know, the Discovery show or something like that.
Basically, to summarize it to anyone that might wonder, why don't we like this? Well, the answer is really, really simple.
It sucks.
Absolutely
Bad writing.
Awful writing. The reason that we tear this a new one is because we can. It's so easy. There's nothing good. There's nothing to like about this.
Well, I sent you a message on WhatsApp,
bad
didn't I, Andre?
experience.
The first 5 minutes, I said this thing is terrible. It's only 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
I will argue there is a good show here, but it's way far past that now. There's no saving what we have here. You're not going to salvage it. But the initial idea of having a ship that is so far advanced and it's in this, you know, future where it's so far beyond anything Trek has seen before, and you have somebody like Saru as a captain, all of those things are great things to build a show on. But they don't have it.
But it's not a great thing to build a show on when it's set 10 years before the original
That's the
series.
problem. They started off on the wrong foot to begin with, and now it's too late to salvage that.
Should have been post Voyager.
Yeah.
Well, that's what everybody has said from the start.
You should never do prequels because prequels, like, I stand by this, right? And I know a lot of people won't like this, right? But just hear me out. Rogue One is not a bad prequel when it comes to a prequel story because it's so far off adjacent away from the mainline narrative that it's barely a prequel, right? You can't tell a prequel in the Federation with all these ships doing all these strange new worlds, all this stuff with no one else hearing about anyone. Like, it just doesn't work. It's a Federation. They're always going to hear about it. They're going to send their documentation. It doesn't make sense. Like, you can't have each series, you know, like aligning themselves to these brand new things and they're discovering all this new stuff when it's already been done. Like, how many things? Do you see what I mean? Like,
well, with Star Trek, it's not about the state of the universe. It's just about exploring other planets. So you can actually get away with that. The problem is that when you start telling stories regarding the state of the universe, that's
they're
when you
doing
get into trouble.
universe-shattering events here, aren't they?
Yeah, you can't have universe-shattering events in Star Trek. That's one of the things that you can do to get away with it. Because even for a person today watching any type of Star Trek, if the Next Generation is the first series they see, them going back to see the original isn't going to ruin the next gen for them. And that's how it works with regards to science fiction. You can tell any type of prequel story you want, so long as it doesn't have a negative impact on the main story. So you can have a ship called like the USS Lexington set in the Kirk era, just going off looking at, searching other planets and whatnot in an episodic structure, and it's not going to negatively impact the original series.
Yeah, they wanted to legitimize what they were doing by trying to tie it into the original series, is what it is.
And they shouldn't have done that. They could have done a series 10 years before Kirk. They just didn't have to have a cataclysmic event like this. Explore strange planets.
It's the same as like, this. They always need to up the ante. And I'm really struggling to see like how any of these events have happened when we've already just had Picard and that weird little AI thing that came through. Is that the same universe or not? Like, what is it?
This thing here, okay. In general, though, like they're two different. Like they will tell us that this is the same universe as the original series, just a couple of years before the original series. So we have been led to believe that this is going to lead straight into to William Shatner's Star Trek, and the broken shell of a man Spock we saw in season 2. Well, that's the same Spock that Leonard Nimoy is going to be playing in a couple of years from now. Okay, that's what they will lead us to believe. But in actual reality, if you look into the legalities of the matter, this Prime universe is the same universe as Picard, but it's made under a completely different Star Trek license than any original Star Trek. So technically, it's not part of it. What is canon here is Picard. So this is the Prime universe. And the only things that we have seen in the Prime universe are Star Trek Discovery, it's Star Trek Picard, and it's like the flashback scenes to the Prime timeline in the JJ
So what's happening
movie.
with these AIs and massive flowers then that we saw in Picard?
Give it time, and maybe they'll get to that.
You think so?
I hope not, but it might.
That's the season 4, right?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not saying otherwise. Not saying otherwise. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. But guys, now when we are suffering to that, let's get caught up on some super chats, because we've got a couple of more since the last time. So just give me a second to refresh here so we get them all. Evar Jantz says, how are they still powering the Spore drive? Tardigrade is dead, and weren't they loading up the drive with tanks of stuff in season 1? Yeah, well, I guess they simplify the process between the scenes, or am I missing something major here?
They just need the spores to do it, right?
All sorts of fuckery.
Something weird.
Yeah, they changed it from one episode to the other. So my answer is, don't think too much about it. Just criticize it for being as dumb as it is.
I honestly, I've gotten so many. You have no idea how many fucking migraines this show has given me.
I had diarrhea from this.
I'm not surprised. I didn't laugh because I'm sure you're not kidding. I mean, it gives you fucking diarrhea of the brain, that's for sure, because you're just like, your mind melts. You're just like, how fucking stupid can you be? Is this Star Trek?
Yeah, and we have visual evidence that it's gonna make brain melt just from looking at Mr. H's reactions.
Honestly, there's just not a whole lot. Like, the thing is, and I've said this before, right? No series or no movie is ever perfect. Like, they all have plot holes. But the sign of a good one is being so good and engaging that you forget the plot holes.
Exactly.
Because every movie has plot holes, like they all do. But it's whether they're entertaining enough for the brain to forgive the plot holes. This just isn't that entertaining. Like, yeah.
This is just one big plot hole.
Yeah. You can forgive many things if it's good. But if it's not, then all of those bad things, they matter all the more, and they just become all the more visible if it doesn't work. And that's where we are. Now, moving on to the next super chat, Dreamer out there says they misgendered them. Call them she in episode. Oh yeah, she's referring to the new character.
Non-binary 6.
Yeah, the one who is to be referred to as they. If you read articles about that that individual, it's ridiculous to read, because there's like one article talking about them, instead of like saying she is, they're like they are. I'm like, okay, so we're gonna, yeah. I don't
what?
even
I'll give at least what's her face, Lundy Bridge Payne or whatever her name is from Bill and Ted, because she considers herself non-binary, but in the movie they always refer to them as she and the girls. They don't have this like they them crap going on in the movie. She didn't carry that into it. I mean, why is that a fucking problem? I don't get it. People can play whatever the fuck they want.
But they can't though. This is the blinkered worldview we have nowadays. Like, you can't play a trans character unless you are actually trans. Like,
is wheelchair guy really in a wheelchair? I gotta ask myself.
Absolutely ridiculous.
That's a good question. Wheelchair man, Timmy.
Is he really in a wheelchair?
I don't know.
Why is he in a wheelchair?
Because he's Timmy.
But this is genuinely the insanity that we have come to now.
No. You got to understand. There's a guy on a wheelchair in the ship too.
Is there?
Yeah, like an actual wheelchair. He doesn't have like a floating wheelchair or anything like that.
Why would you? No, what?
Exactly.
Did he stay on the ship and go to the future, or is he back on
representation? That's why.
But you did. Okay, fine, whatever.
Nobody knows his
You
name.
just shrug, don't you? You just go, yeah, whatever. Fine.
Nobody knows his name. Nobody knows where he comes from. Nobody knows a single thing about him, and they just show him he just wheeled right in the middle of a shot one time.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he's just wheeling wrong, Timmy.
There must be people with disabilities that watch this, right? Because I like when I do reviews or I tackle subjects on my channel, with respect to trans people or gay people, whatever they are, there are always people that watch my channel. Like I have, believe it or not, there's actually quite a large trans community that watch my channel. Really nice people send me emails and things like that, and I like to engage with them on their level because, I don't want to speak for them. I don't know. So when I do a review, I'll say, look, hey, this is how I view it. If that was me, if I was that disabled person, right, and I was hired to just be wheeled out in that fashion, I would feel insulted. So I always say that, like, is there anyone watching this that has a disability? If you were to be wheeled out, or not literally wheeled out, but do you know what I mean? Like, if you were to be wheeled out in a sort of fashion, just showcased, would you find that insulting? Because I bloody would.
Well, and that's the question we've asked ourselves of the cast too, because we're like, at what point do you guys finally realize that you're basically being treated like circus freaks?
But it's exactly the same with these so again, same as anyone who's non-binary or trans, right? I would feel insulted if I was non-binary or trans and I was only hired to play non-binary or trans people, because I'd be like, well, surely I'm more than what I am, right? Like, fuck me. Like, I can act. My career is an actor, right?
Yeah.
My career is not myself. No, it's not my experience.
You're more than your sexual preference. Exactly. Yeah.
But again, like, that's not, I don't want to talk for people. I'm just saying, like, if that was me, that is how I would actually feel. Yeah. So I always find it interesting to put the question to other people, because undoubtedly you'll have people that watch your channel that are trans or non-binary or whatever, and I find it interesting, like, because there's so many people that will jump on this and instantly label what we're saying as bigoted or racist or, transphobic or whatever. But there'll be people that are actually in that community that will go, no, they're completely right, or no, I disagree, but I actually agree with. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's important.
Yeah, there's one thing that I want to emphasize with that, again, for anyone listening. Not a single person here has any kind of issue whatsoever with your sexual preference, leanings, how you identify, anything like that. That's all good. More power to you. What we have an issue with is basically how people of certain communities are basically being paraded around, used as props, used as tools, and like put on screen and like pointed out, like look at the freak.
That's
look
the
how
circus.
look
That's
how,
why I use the circus
how
freak
awesome
analogy.
we
Yeah,
are for putting the circus freak on
exactly.
screen.
They're
That
Yeah.
is our issue here, how disrespectful they are. And this is also why we like the Orville, because the Orville deals with exactly the same issues, but they have no need to like look and point and put in variety and say, look at this circus freak that we're putting here on screen. Look how awesome progressive we are. Because that's what they do. That is how they talk when they point it out.
You're a
The
cash
Orville,
cow.
yeah, like the Orville,
They-
they just do it and treat it as the most natural thing in the world, an absolute non-issue, and then they involve it into the story, and then they create the drama around it, in which you let people see then from the point of view that they don't otherwise do. This is what
Yeah.
we want. This is where Star Trek Discovery fails so miserably, because it treats non-binaries not as anyone else, but as circus freaks, wheels them out, points them out, so people can look and marvel at how amazingly progressive the writers and creators are for giving them such special treatment when they should just be like everyone else. That's
It's
our
a
issue
twisted form
here.
of mockery. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
weird way it
exactly.
is. And that's why I bring up the circus freak analogy, because it's just like the old barkers out there, like, look at us, we've got a dog boy, we've got a bearded lady, we've got Siamese twins, and that's what it's like. And when are people going to wake up and realize that's what they're being used as? And if you think we're kidding, Mr. H, here's Wheelchair Man.
Timber!
Like, why is that on the show?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you would. I mean, he added the Timmy to it. Rob did, of course. But no, like it's true though. If you're in the future, you would not have a wheelchair on a spaceship. Sure,
Yeah,
have
you
a disabled person on there. We're not saying that, but give them a really cool, like floating wheelchair or something like that.
Prosthetic,
something futuristic.
A prosthetic that allows them to function, like they did in Deep Space Nine with the woman who came from a lighter gravity. They had to give her an exosuit so she could function in normal gravity.
There's no justification for this guy being a wheelchair, because in DS9 they said wheelchairs have been abandoned. Nobody hadn't used a wheelchair in like 200 years.
Unless you had Iverson's
they've
disease.
What
sold
happens
hunger,
when you
haven't
get
they,
hit with a
right?
torpedo and that wheelchair goes flying?
But they've solved hunger in this universe, haven't they? It's a utopia.
Yes.
So how have they not solved disabilities? Like, even a fucking
And
Pretty
the other,
much.
And the other thing is, the ship isn't laid out for somebody in a wheelchair. There's steps and there's ledges and there's all kinds of stuff he can't access.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's just not an environment. Yeah, exactly my original point. It's not the environment you would have a situation like that. Now, if you would have some kind of track system or a levitating wheelchair, that's a different story.
Well, how
But,
about this? You could have a person who cannot use their legs work in space because you don't have artificial gravity. So they could work on the ISS. As long as you can move your hands and arms, that's fine. And that way you can kind of justify using a person who's like, yes, I can't lose my legs, but when I come into outer space, I'm just as capable I can stand up, by illusions, because of lack of gravity.
But it doesn't matter. They didn't offer us any. That is the most you see of this character, other than maybe one or two other shots. They don't give us anything.
Yeah.
That's the whole
Oh, he's
point.
definitely a background character.
That's the whole point and joke we bring up about these characters. And that's why I didn't even recognize, what's her face without all her robot prosthetics on as a new character, because they do a piss poor job of introducing us to these characters. And I pointed out, I'm the novice Trek fan on this show. I have not seen all of or most of DS9 or Voyager, but I know most of those characters because they transcend the show. They are part of the ethos or whatever you want to talk about, to where I know who they are. I knew who Captain Kirk was before I ever watched Star Trek. That's the thing, is everybody knows who Spock is.
Ridiculous.
It's all part of their as I call it, their woke dick measuring Olympics. I mean, they're all just trying to score woke points by parading these people around as purse puppies.
Well, BK109 makes an interesting point. Didn't Picard have his bloody heart replaced, so nerve and muscle damage should be trivially easy to fix in the future. He had his whole body replaced.
Yeah, they usually set it up to where any augmentations or fixing that's not done is because of the person's choice or they're allergic to or something. Like the whole, like in, what was it, Wrath of Khan, he's like,
Oh yeah,
I'm allergic to retinol or whatever,
yeah,
retinol 9 or whatever it is.
Kirk
yeah.
is allergic to an eye a chemical that can keep your eyes perfect.
Guys, you're all forgetting this immensely beloved character that was an integral part of the bridge crew in seasons 1 and 2 that everyone loved and was fully integrated, so much so that
Not wheelchair man?
she got the whole episode telling us this after being in the background. You know,
you
the
mean
robot chick.
Robot lady, yeah, before
Yeah.
she got turned into this other character.
One
Yeah.
that they did a whole funeral for, but all the other people that died prior, they got nothing, no service.
Because Mr. H, here's like a fact that you need to know because it illustrates everything. In the background, and like in the bridge crew that you don't know, like the NPCs in the background there was a robot woman by the looks of it. And then this robot woman, she died at one point. And then we had this flashback with everybody sharing their memories of her and how awesome she was and how beautiful she was and blah blah, all of those things. Honestly, it came off like a South Park parody of them parodying like flashbacks. Yeah, that's her on screen.
That's the second one, actually.
Yeah, they
And
recast
anyway,
her so the original lady could be still in the cast, but as this other character I didn't recognize earlier.
The point with that is that basically this is a woman that was blown up, and who the hell knows what was left, like a tiny little chunk of her brain or something, and they were able to replace everything else. I mean, she even had to like take out her memory on a USB chip or something like that. But this guy in a wheelchair, they couldn't fix that. Couldn't give him like a robotic underbody or something. Again, like they're not even consistent with their own technology. But again, here's like the thing: this is not meant to be consistent with the real world. What is really going on, and this is what I find so insulting, is basically they're pointing out like, look, someone with a wheelchair. Look at the freak. Look how awesome we are for putting this freak on screen. So all of you freaks out there who happen to be in a wheelchair can feel represented. And when I say freak, I'm mimicking them, because obviously we don't feel that way, and that's what's like so that they have like this need to point it out to show.
No, that's a very
how
good point,
awesome they are.
because I've had a lot of friends that are not white and are not straight or whatever you want to call it, because there's too many categories anymore to put everybody in, too many boxes. And they say the same thing. They're sick of being put back into boxes because they fought for so long to just be seen as a person, and not a gay person, and not a black person. Exactly. Yeah. It sickens me that they cause so much, because that's the problem they don't even see. It's like, you don't realize how fucking racist and sexist and whatever other istophobe you want to throw in there when you're doing this shit. Because I go back and we watch all these classic films, and especially I bring this up more often than not because it's true. When we go through our top 10 films every year on Christie's channel, it's like, well, this movie shouldn't exist because it has a gay character in it, and it's not, or a black lead or a female lead, and not only that, a strong female lead, or a whole bunch of women as a lead. And it's like, you guys act like these movies never existed. They have for many, many years, and we've had very diverse casts for many, many years. But you know what? They didn't call attention to it. They didn't sit there and go, oh, well, it's a good thing you're black, or we would never have gotten through that. I don't ever remember hearing that, or it's a good thing you're gay, or you'd be trying to fuck me right now. I don't remember hearing anything like that. And that's the kind of shit you are basically seeing on screen. And I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but it's almost true. It really is.
Yeah, pretty much. Guys, let's get on with some more super chats, because we have a couple more, some really cool ones as well. The next one is from The Wall, that says, dropped in just to see what was being discussed and whether or not I should stay. I see it's STD. Keep the donation, but I'm out. I'm eating.
For that.
Don't want to watch that stuff while eating.
That's actually a very good.
Well, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your support. That's much appreciated for if and when you hear this, when you stop eating. And Stony D says, question for you all. If you took over Trek, would you attempt to salvage what you could from Discovery and try to make it work, or scrap the entire thing altogether and start over with a new show/concept? Now, I've already made my thoughts plain on this. There's no salvage here. This all need to pretend it never ever happened, but that's my thoughts. Guys, give it your thoughts real quick, and then we hand it to Mr. H that hasn't answered this before. Script, you go first. Is there any salvage here?
No, there's not really any salvage for this particular show, aside from just making the ending being a holographic program by Burnham and Saru, and they're members of like the Phoenix, and like they just end program and then get back to their
walks
lowly
out.
ensigns, because it's just a very, very disjointed, irrational type of story. It doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't have any cause and effect. It's nuts. Like, just cut your losses and move on to something else for Star Trek wise. That's my take.
Rob, real quick. Salvage.
No, I don't. You can't salvage anything from here. Maybe some aesthetic details, but this is gone. This is too far gone. You just push the button, and implode it, and then you have to take like 4 or 5 years off, maybe 6 or 7, to wash the taste out of everybody's mouth. And you got to get rid of everybody associated with this too in the process. But now,
Tom?
Yeah, as I said before, there is no real salvaging this, and I've been talking to Anti-Trekker again. We hadn't had a chance to have him on in a while, and he's, he came around to Lower Decks, and I guess he actually kind of I think he may have even enjoyed the first 2 episodes of this so far, but I heard through the grapevine that he was not happy with this last one, so I guess it was kind of pointless to bring him on and have another condescending voice here, or whatever you want to call it. Because, yeah, it's tougher and tougher and tougher to find, alternate voices in this. I mean, we have one in the chat now that, that keeps causing some issues. But other than that, it really doesn't make any sense why we keep going on with this. I feel like you have me in some torturous saw, like, contraption, Andre. I don't know what else to say. This show's not salvageable.
Mr. H, is there any salvage here?
What? But I don't have the year. I don't know all the rest of the stuff that happened. So I'm looking at it from quite a fresh perspective. So if they sorted some of the writing out, like you could get it to be less plot hole ridden, but then the actors are bad. So I don't know. Probably not. But it's difficult to say because I don't know the history of it all, right? Like I don't know the history of everything that's absolutely garbage, like the tardigrade yeast infection spunking through the universe on mushrooms. Like, that's not what I know about.
That's a reason why we call this STD.
Yeah, well, apparently so. But yeah, I don't know really. I would imagine probably not, just because the acting is really quite bad. But I mean, I'd want it to be pretty good, to be fair. I don't want it to be not good. No one wants it to be shit, do they?
No, we all love Star Trek. We want it to be good, but
but it's interesting. So I've been doing these reviews on my channel now, and even the people that liked it have gone, "Oh no, you do actually have a good point on this, and this, though." Yeah, I can't really dispute that. And that's the thing. Like when people actually engage properly and go, "Oh, I know you've raised a good point there." Actually, like even objectively, that's a pretty good point. So even when people like it can say that, I think that goes to show quite a lot. To be fair.
Yeah. And then moving on to the next super chat, Lost Jedi 22 says, anyone find it odd that the gay guy who literally hates everyone on the ship got sent to go sweet talk Adira?
Yeah, that was kind of, yeah. And he volunteered all this information he shouldn't be telling this 16-year-old child to sweet talk her into finding out what she did to their ship.
You know what? There was one time where Stamets did come across as somewhat likable, and it was in that one episode where Harry Mudd kept killing everybody.
Oh yeah, the time loop episode.
Yeah, and then him, because he has to go into the mushroom chamber, and so he can see other kind of realities and shit like that. And then he had like a nice little moment where he danced with Mikey Spock, and he said, "Listen, if you're going to figure this out, you're going to have to do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is I like this Stamets. Yeah, he's kind of like nice and charming." And then he went right back to being a dickhead.
Well, he had a goal in that episode, and then once they got rid of him having a goal, he no longer became a character and became now a set piece to function for the plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the plot to push forward Michael Burnham, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on. Eric B. says, Star Trek Discovery can be summed up as dark, morbid, vulgar, cliched flashpot souffle. Well, that's a nice summary. And you'll like this, Tom. Says, Hi, gents. I don't feel good after watching STD. Remember how good it felt to watch Star Trek? I want that back. The show creators are killjoys. And apparently, if Mr. H is to believe, they're very good makers of laxatives.
and that's what I seen in this episode. They tried in that 5-minute little scene with the whole Lurch guy pulling off his mask, trying to emulate classic Trek, and it just was not working.
Wasn't authentic, that's why.
No, exactly. It's like one of those normal things, like, where Kirk would figure it out and he'd be like, it's kind of funny, blah, blah, blah. And then he'd start the whole thing and he'd be like, I know you can't work your problems overnight, but maybe this is a step in the right direction. No, Mikey Spock's just like, work your shit out. It's like, fuck you, bitch.
Oh, yeah, like Kirk or Picard or Cisco would cleverly find a way to get that like Titan guy to remove his helmet voluntarily or deduce from the dialogue and arguments back and forth that they're of the same species and that they're of the same planet, and be like, this person is from Europe, this person is Earth, is a human, they're from Earth. Why are you segregating them? And they would say, no, I don't believe you. And then the guy takes off his helmet. He's like, yeah, I am. And mind shattered, so to speak.
In the end of the episode, it would be like, Spock and Bones and Kirk would be like, maybe someday they'll be able to work their differences out. For now, maybe at least they won't be shooting each other constantly, kind of thing, and
yeah,
maybe we did some good,
Yeah, there's the message delivered, isn't there, at the end, sort of thing.
But no, like the way it's presented here is just in your face and that whole kind of tokenism bullshit like we just were talking about. Yeah, so go ahead, Andre, my bad.
Yeah. Yes, moving on. Adam Wofford says, how did you know he was human? It was the way he was talking and how he was using very human terms and human words. Most aliens don't talk like that.
And that's kind of what we were just saying.
And he also had overalls on, or coveralls. I mean, he didn't have any kind of spacesuit or anything, some kind of pressurized suit. I mean, we
were talking more about the way it was presented and how it was played out.
Yeah, she kicked him in the leg and ripped his helmet off.
She should have said at least should have said, please be human before she took before she took it off,
That would have made the whole episode so much better. But anyway, that didn't happen. And moving on, Krulex81, he sent us 2 super chats. First one was saying, that's to me, finally managed to catch you live in response to how you mocked Sweden. Remember that Norway banned Life of Brian and Sweden didn't? This is true. This is very true. Our authorities did ban Life of Brian for a while there. But I say I resent that I mocked Sweden. I stated facts. But anyway,
you're turning into Stieg pretty goddamn quick.
No, seriously, I love Swedes. I absolutely.
Next thing you know, you're gonna be starting to say shit like swamp ass bitch and.
But anyway, guys, please. So, Kulex, take note of this. And any Swedes listening, if you want to get Norway for something, forget about banning Life of Brian, which was like for a couple of months only when that movie was released. Norway basically disbanded the entire FM radio network and replaced it with dub. It was we don't have FM radio. We replaced it with dub. It is the most stupid, insane decision ever done, and almost all Norwegian politicians were party to it, and they all need to be impeached for it.
You'll have
So
to
you
explain
want
it to me off the air.
but okay, just read it up. Norway FM dub. You want to get Norway for something, then do that. And fucking those fuckers are getting away with it. So
Oh, DAB is how it's spelled? Okay.
yeah, DAB.
All right.
So you want to get Norway for something, do that, and you have my full support. And moving on, Kulex also said
gotcha. Digital
was in a
audio
wheelchair.
broadcast.
Yes.
See, we do multicast here still. Yep, sorry about that. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, here we shut down the FM, and it was a
Dum, da-dum, dum.
That's exactly what it was. Coolx81 also said Pike was in a wheelchair, the cage again. Yeah, but that had the benefit of being a pilot. So
There's also a life support chair too. So.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a lot more to it. I think I kind of answered that in the chat. When we
but even that is like, we'll just look through the fingers of that. That was like, it was 1965.
Yeah, if they could make it levitate, they probably would have and stuff.
Yeah. And Toxic Man Flu says, when a discussion about a copy of a copy of a copy of a Star Trek episode is more entertaining, you have a problem. P.S. Appreciate ME team. Well, thank you. We appreciate you and everyone else in the chat as well. Almost, that is. And no, actually, we do appreciate those that don't disagree with us, but that come to listen. If they do listen, that's a different matter. But we appreciate anyone that comes and is willing to have a conversation. And BK109 says, so how does Daniels from Enterprise fit this new timeline, given that he's born in the 31st century? Or did the STD writers forget about Star Trek Enterprise? Oh, they never watched it, I assure you.
And this series takes place in the 32nd century, so that's,
Yeah. They still have like, obviously a different timeline.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
and different contract altogether. And here's a good one.
Speaking of BK109 real quick though, he said dab and with your geography, what the actual fuck? Now that I know it, I kind of figured that's what it was, but oh my god, yeah, that's dumb. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. And then a really, really good one. Johnny David for me and Mr. H says, I work for people with perceived disabilities almost every day. Well said, Mr. H and Midnight said. Definitely people are exploited for public virtue signaling. That is exactly what is happening.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's but that's what it is. I'm just going to refresh and see if we have any more.
Because I know Mr. H has to get going here. So, refreshing. Did you have anything to plug real quick, Mr. H, before you take off?
No, just, if anyone wants to check out my channel, please do. It's just Mr. H Reviews on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. H Reviews and Instagram at Mr. H Reviews. If you like cars and classic Datsuns, then Instagram's a good place. I also got a dog that's quite cute. So you can head over to my Instagram. But yeah, no, that's it really, guys. Just check out if you like some of the review stuff and my sort of tone here. You'll find it, unabashedly over on my channel, basically.
Also, Mr. H is a filmmaker, so you can follow the progress of his movies there, and also join in the funding campaign. So do check that out if you're a fan of Lovecraft in particular. So absolutely go check out Mr. H Reviews. With that, thanks for joining us and sharing your feelings yet again. I was thinking, oh, no way we can convince you to come back for more.
He's pissed at us.
But what you did, and that's much appreciated. I am sure that
my brain has not melted thus far.
Well, I'm sure that everyone here is appreciating your insights. As Pop Culture Minefield says, other good friends of ours, we are already subbed to Mr. H. So yeah, it's
I did
awesome.
throw the link in the chat though, so if you're not subbed, go ahead and head on over there and do yourself a favor and check it out. And I'm sure we'll also have it in the description for those who are listening after the fact.
Absolutely. There's also in the description right now. I made sure to put it there. So.
Awesome.
Excellent. Right. Well, anyway, guys, I will catch you guys later.
Take care, and I apologize again. Please don't come after us with any kind of revenge.
You're still friends in in inverted commas, all right? You're not there.
This was not my idea.
No. Guys, this is all on me. I decided that Mr. H should watch this because that would be hilarious, and it was. So, no apologies.
Schadenfreude, man.
You owe him like whatever the equivalent to like Red Lobster is, a very large gift card to over there.
I'm gonna when the premiere of his movie is, which I'm gonna be there in person. I'm gonna bring a bottle of fine Norwegian moonshine, and then all is good and well.
All right, guys. Thanks so much. Take care.
See you later.
All right, take care.
Thank you. All right, and are we caught up then?
We are fully caught up with the super chats.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And Script Doctor, as always, even though you're like the fifth Beatle, it's always great that you take the time out of your schedule to hop in here and hang out with us. We enjoy it when you are able to. Awesome. Yeah, because normally you are.
I'm just usually getting in at this time.
Yeah, you're still busy. But I see Gary just went live with. They're going to do their review over there, and I think you said also Critical Drinkers live.
Yeah.
So I'll throw their links in the chat. And if you guys want to head on over there, just let them know that you're rating from Midnight's Edge and tell them we said hello. And we love you guys for listening in. It's because of you we do this every week, and we had a great crowd today. So thank you so much for showing up and listening to us go through our misery here on Star Trek Recovery.
Absolutely. And I do hope that those that may be listening that don't follow us regularly see that our criticism actually does come from a place of love, which is why we love the Orville. That is what we want to feel about Star Trek. But the people currently in charge of it are mismanaging it really, really badly.
Absolutely. So until next time, take care, everybody.